We're live. Sharing a little cut off. I just said, yeah, I know. Scoot in.
I was like, I probably just like the corner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You like the corner? So we got a thug in here. What you be doing on the corner, Sharon?
Hiding away. They don't want to be seen. Don't want to be seen.
Oh, so we're making sure that all of our cameras and shit are in the light, because let me tell you something about repurposing, baby. Okay, we are recording this live. It is a conversation. I see the Trap Tribe is in here. If you guys have questions and shit, put that up there. But we are going to just kind of go at it for the first 30 or so minutes, so that this shit can be made into something you're gonna want to watch later when it's not live. All right. Okay, so if somehow you found this link and you don't know who the fuck I am, Divine Appointments, Compassion, I am happy you're here. My name is Brittany of Trap Yoga Bay, and I am typically a green hair twerking yoga instructor. But today I am on my life coach mindset shit. And in the last month, we have been focusing on, in my Trap Tribe, loss. And, you know, nobody likes a know-it-all, right? And there is shit that I know, and there is shit that I know that I know. And loss, I know a lot about. But when it tips over into depression, and when I think you need to talk to somebody who actually has their license and can give you, you know, real shit, it's beyond me. So what I did was I went through my Rolodex of badass bitches that I love. Short Rolodex, very, very short. And I reached out to my friend here, Sharon.
Hi.
Sharon has a company. Is it a company, a brand?
Brand.
A brand.
Yes.
It's a brand.
It's a brand.
It's a brand.
Yes.
Has a brand, Bay Therapist,
Yes.
and you do amazing things.
Thank you.
You are a licensed MFT.
Yes.
And you still got a day job.
Yes.
So you help people in the day.
Yes.
You help people at night.
Yes.
You just help people.
That's what I do.
And I called you and asked you if you could help me and my tribe.
Yes.
And you said,
yes.
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 So we're here. We're here.
Yes.
A whole bunch of yeses.
Yes.
So, side note, and I mean, we're going to get into it. I make the house shout yes when they wake up. That is our like shortest morning meditation.
Mm-hmm.
No one else in my house is a morning person but me.
Mm-hmm.
True DJ True Star. True is on the other side of these cameras. Do you love it? Just love it when I wake up and I'll be like, babe, give me a yes.
I don't love it.
You don't love it.
I don't mind it.
You don't mind it.
Mm-hmm.
But I be so hype about the yes.
Yeah.
I wake up, I'm like, yes.
Yes. I was gonna say, I mean, probably sets the tone for the
It
day.
does, because it's when you do it, it's like the same yes for when you win something, right? And so if you wake up and you're like, I want winner's mindset, so the first thing I'm gonna shout is yes, because I woke up, which means, bitch, I already won.
That's true.
I already won,
Right.
So you know, sprinkle that in there,
Yeah.
and let's dig into our topic.
Yeah.
So the reason why I ended up reaching out to you was for two reasons. One, we, as we're focusing on loss, a lot of my girls felt like they had been dealing with the prerequisites of loss for a long time, which we talked about in my workshop is anxiety. And I think anxiety can be that thing that keeps you up at night and kind of has you going and like constantly worried about it. But there's also depression, and anxiety is something that, you know, I personally have suffered from, and something that I had to overcome, but depression just ain't my bag. So I said, Sharon, can you help my people talk about, you know, the depression that goes along with grief and loss, and dig in. So I'll let you start there, and then we can go into more specifics after that.
Yeah. So a couple of things. So depression is a very normal part of grief. And honestly, if you had a very, very big loss and you didn't feel anything, that's actually more unusual, because it is to be expected you're going to feel a certain way if you lost something. And I watched your courses. A loss can be anything. It can be a job. It can be a partnership. It can be COVID. I don't know about you all, but I am grieving what my life was and what it is now. That is all to be expected. So a couple things with depression. One, if we can change our mindset of like how we view depression. So we really view it as this like bad thing. Like, why do I feel depressed? I shouldn't feel depressed. So on the lightest note of it, if you feel depressed about a loss, it means that you love or you were loved. For me, that's actually something that like helps me because it means that I love, and that's like for me a beautiful
to be capable
of
loving.
That like, and if we are talking about a person that, if this is something you cared about that you lost, that you were loved.
Yeah.
So that's actually like something I take with me when I am feeling like that depression. It's like, it's love.
It's beautiful. Love. I remember reading a quote, and it was like, I think it was in option B, a book that I was reading, and she was like, the depression piece or the grieving of a loss is just all that love that you have bottled up inside of you, and you don't have anywhere to give it or to put it. But I really want to like drill in on that piece that you just said about depression, right? Like, because we live in this American society, the conversation is always be happy, be on, always be ready, like smile, put a fucking smile on your face, right? You can't, as women, we can't even walk down the street with a neutral face without some rando being like, smile, pretty girl. And so it's like, well, what if I'm not, what if I don't want to? But I think what happens is other people have trained us to, mask our depression because it makes them uncomfortable. If I'm not happy and you don't know how to deal with my negative emotions, then if you're not dealing with it, then as somebody else is going to make me feel shitty about feeling shitty, right? Like, cheer up. Why you always so upset? Why, like, just fucking be happy and not like deal with that. So one, is it safe, right? As my MFT sit on this couch with me right now, is it safe to say, fuck those people who are uncomfortable with your unhappiness?
Yes. It makes us, as my mom would say, a textured person. I love my mom. I'm going to probably reference her more than once on this because my mom she's always with it. But to be a textured person is to actually experience all of the emotions. And so bad, depressed, sad, they get really bad raps, but all of the emotions are important and they are vital to us. So even our happiness, that is fleeting. Happiness is fleeting, sadness is fleeting, depression is fleeting, elation is fleeting. All the emotions are fleeting. So just to be comfortable with, in your lifetime, you're going to have all of the emotions. All of them. And they're all important. They're all valid. And they all tell us something. So when you're talking about like anxiety and depression, I talk to those emotions. I talk to them. I swear. I sit there.
I like this.
I talk to them. I be like, anxiety, what you trying to tell me? Why are you here? Why are you here? What do I need to know from you? Right? A lot of times anxiety is about something is telling you to go into action. Whatever that is, a lot of the time. So it's like, anxiety, you want me to do something? What you want me to do? You want me to take that really scary step?
Sounds like a crying baby. What you crying for? How can I help you?
What is this?
What you bitching about?
Me, So the same thing with depression. It's like, what is that depression trying to tell you? It's telling you again that you loved something, whatever that was. And again, that's not a bad thing. What happens? Also with grief and depression, a lot of times what happens is we go through waves. And I call it the pangs, right? So I've had pangs before where one time for real, I was just like eating some cereal out of my business. And I just, whatever it was, something just triggered me. And I just had that memory of that loss.
And you got taken back.
Oh, yeah. I started crying over that cereal for no reason.
Cereal went from sweet to salty.
For no reason. Right? But it happens. And that is a part of the grieving process. And so you go through these waves. But when you've gone through enough waves, you realize this is fleeting. This doesn't last.
We talk about those 3 Ps, right? It's not permanent.
It's not permanent.
It's not permanent. And I love that piece about the brain. So take a second to talk about how the brain works. Do we realize, guys, that your brain cannot tell the difference between a memory and what you're actually in, right? So when you experience something, these synapses happen, and when you're triggered, the reason why you feel so overwhelmed because your brain says that's where we are.
Right.
Your brain, like a memory is as lucid as a really, really, really deep dream. And so when you are constantly fighting against, right, like dealing with that yesterday, right? Because the trigger is your brain's way of kicking back in saying, hey, there's some shit that, that you didn't deal with before that I feel like is a safe time to bring up.
Yeah, actually, the best advice I had heard around this. So when I was going through my own grief of my dad, and I remember I went to go talk to a therapist, and I remember like, I think about him all the time. I kept saying that, like, I think about him all the time. I think about him all the time. And the guy was like, he was cool. He was like, but you probably thought about him a lot when he was alive.
Mm.
And I was like, yeah, you're right. Yes, right. And so his point was like, you're probably not thinking about him any more than you were before. It's just now you have like
It's
different,
more emotionally charged.
It's just more emotionally charged. And so again, if we're talking about a job, you probably thought about that job all the time. If you lost your job, because you probably always thinking when my next paycheck come in, or I gotta do this thing tomorrow for my job, or if you're in a relationship,
how much sick time I got,
all that, right? Or if you go through like a loss of relationship, you probably thought about your partner all the time. Like, I know mine, I'd be like, did he eat tonight? Maybe I got to think about our dinner or whatever. So always on my mind all the time. So it goes in waves. And if you've lost, as time goes on, you won't think about them as much, but you'll still think about them. And that's okay. If we are talking about like a loss of the actual death of passing of someone, you're going to always think about them.
Yeah.
You always want to think about them. And it won't be as painful all the time that you think about them, but the relationship just changes. You still have the relationship with that person. It's just kind of transformed into something else. So I think that's like the important part, of just understanding that that's how grief works a lot of the time. So it's not wrong if you keep thinking about it, because you probably thought about it a lot when the person or whatever was here.
That totally reminds me of the resiliency piece of it. You know, a lot of times people have a hard time getting over a loss because they feel like, you know, the 3 Ps we talked about, like that it's, you know, that it's their fault, right? It's personal, that it's pervasive, which means it affects every area of your life, and it's permanent, meaning that feeling of immense sadness will never go away. But really speaking to that piece that you said, to remind yourself that it hasn't changed as much. Because when you can remember that this was normal before, you know, you can stop blaming yourself for the after. And I love that piece. You thought about that person before, or I know people talk about when they lost, you know, a job or something like that, or just losing anything, it affects their confidence. And so if you're like, damn, you know, I'm so stressed out about this loss, I forgot so-and-so's birthday. I forgot to call my friend and tell them happy birthday because I'm so stressed out about this loss. It's really helpful to have a friend or someone else remind you, bitch, you always forgot people's birthdays, because we want to, because we need to be able to remember that we lost something, but we didn't lose ourselves. We haven't changed so much. It hasn't left such an indelible scar on us that we are incapable of moving forward. And the sooner you can realize that you are still yourself, the sooner you can get back to that.
And when we're going through it, when you're having a hard time and you're thinking like, how am I going to get through this? I don't know what it looks like on the other side of what my life looks like, you know, beyond that big loss. But the thing is, and I always remind people of this all the time, you've been making changes your whole life. You've been doing it your whole life. You are not the expert. If you are not the expert of anything in this life, you are the expert of that, because you've been doing it forever. So think about the time. I mean, you're not cheap right now. You don't have to.
Right? We can go. I'm an open book.
But if the people out there, you know, if you can think about like something that you've been through that was hard, how did you do it? What was that about you that got you through it? So was it your internal happiness? We talked about yours, like just like when you have that optimism, right? So like, is it someone's optimism? Is it they just, I don't know, they support system. They just are strong. Ethics, determination. There's something about you that has gotten you this far. You didn't get here on accident. You didn't get here just like, ta-da, I'm still here. Like you had skills along the way. So if you're going through a loss now, and we all are to a degree, right? It's COVID, it's real. We all have to cope with that. Absolutely. And so whatever you did in the past to get you through, you do those same skills. And I promise that will get you.
And we talked about that offline before we jumped on. And I thought that was that was really, really good to say, like, okay, when you lose a relationship or a job, you're like, I have no idea how I'm going to get by now. And you were like, but you lived 30, 40, 50, 15, so many, 18 years before this. So to remember that you had an existence before this thing existed, and you will continue to have an existence, granted, maybe not the same. Right. But you will continue to exist. Yes. And I think that that's really, really important, because a lot of times we have catastrophic thinking. Yes. I had a coworker back when I had a job for the county, girl. That was like back, like 2010. And she was actually dealing with her car being repossessed. And that's a loss, right? And I remember seeing her at work, like, freaking out all the time because she would have to park her car down the street, around the corner, trying to hide it from the repo people. And they finally found the car and took it. And I remember she came back and even before they took the car, she was like, because how am I going to get to work? And I got to get my kid to school, and I got to, figure this shit out. And, I just got to find this money. I'm so stressed out. I'm so stressed out. I'm so stressed out. And then when when they did take the car, then she was actually a little bit relieved, because we don't realize how stressed out we are about holding things that may not be working for us just because they're familiar. Right. Because it's easier to stress out about the same shit that you've been stressed out than it is to figure out a new way. Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. I'm about to choke myself. Can I get some water?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I actually think you're making a good point, because a lot of times in our heads, we have it what this looks like. Our car, our marriage, our lives. And again, especially during COVID, I don't know about you all, but I was supposed to go on a trip to Vegas, New Orleans this year. I was supposed to do
planned it out.
I had all kinds of stuff, right? So it's the loss of that. And so another mom phrase here, but the thing that we say is it may not be the okay you want, but it will be okay.
I love that.
That's like my favorite.
My brain's like, how do I make that a register affirmation? It may not be the okay that you want, but it will be okay.
It will be okay.
It will.
It will. So
I promise.
I promise. If you're still here, it's always worked out. Like up until this point, like it's always worked out. So I love the example you just gave, because we can hold on to this car because we think that this is how people.
There's no other way.
Because there's no other way. That's how people think. And so a lot of times in sessions when people say things, my favorite question is, what makes that true? What makes it true? And a lot of
times, fact check.
Like,
fact check.
What makes that statement true? And then people are like, well, I guess it's not, totally true, right? And so we tell ourselves these messages,
these bullshit rules
that they're not even real.
And it's these scripts and these societal norms that we have told ourselves are true, and once we accept it as true, we never challenge them. We never take it some time to go back and challenge that. And for that particular coworker, it ended up working out for her. Right? She was able to call on her community and get her son to school. She was able to save up money and get her Ubers, or I don't think it was Ubers back then. I think it was actually taxis, but to get her taxi. And I remember she rode her bike in sometimes. She's like, oh shit, now I can get my exercise done. Like, you will find a way. It doesn't matter if, oh my God, I've had a car ever since I was 16 and now I'm 45 and I'm about to not have a car and I've got all of these responsibilities. For that, looking back in retrospect, I'm pretty sure it gave her the opportunity to say, all these places that I swear to God I have to be, do I actually have to be there? Right? And even like when your capacity is taken away from you, it's really not a time to try to figure out how the fuck am I going to get it back. I think it's a really great time to put everything up in the air and be like, do I need to go there? Do I need to talk to that person? Do I need to participate in this? Yes. Am I spending my money the right way? And to really dig in on that. Yeah. So many great nuggets so far. Yeah. I want to make sure, because I know we got them. Okay, so I'm like, y'all, I don't got my glasses on. So if you see a bitch squinting, just like be patient with me. I want to make sure that we really dig into to depression. Yeah. But I want them to know the difference between I'm depressed because I'm grieving something. Right. And I'm just fucking depressed. Yes. And I might need some help. Yeah. So what's the difference
Yes.
between the two? And at what point is it safe to say, I can't do this by myself.
Right.
I need to talk to a Sharon
Yes.
or another licensed professional.
Yeah. I think that's a great thing. The question I believe everybody should ask to delineate the difference between depression associated with grief and just depression is this situation depressing? Am I just going through a depressing situation? If the answer is yes, then maybe we might be in the depression associated with grief, and it is to be expected that you are going through something like that. Now, sort of other depression is a lot of the times we don't really know why we feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't know why.
No
we just
cause.
know that we feeling in the dumps, that we just feeling like I call blah. We just feel blah. We just don't have an interest in the things that we used to. We not taking care of ourselves like we used to. We're just maybe not eating, not showering, not doing those hobbies that we used to enjoy. And we don't really know why. Maybe it's an accumulation of things that have happened, but that is the difference. And so depression and grief, again, we can ask, is this a depressing situation? If the answer is yes, then it is to be expected that you will go through depression. A lot of times with depression, grief, I have to keep going back and forth. So with depression and grief, the depression is usually associated with a loss, with an event.
Okay.
Right? So again, since we're talking about loss today, it is when you're having those depression pains is usually in association with the reminders of that person.
Right. Like you're walking down the street and you see a restaurant. You're like, me and so-and-so used to go to that restaurant.
Yes.
Or that's where I used to, if we're not talking about like death,
yes,
that's where I used to go and get my coffee for work. And now I remember that I lost my job and I'm upset.
Right.
Or the bills are due and I remember that I lost my job and I'm upset.
Right.
Versus I'm upset.
Yeah. Or let's say people are feeling guilt. So guilt in grief actually looks different than guilt in depression. So guilt in grief, guilt in grief is really about like, I could have done more for that person. I should have been there more. I could have done more. And you're sort of
part of the bargaining stage, or is it all kind of sprinkled throughout?
I wouldn't, because the bargaining is a little different. Bargaining is like, I swear I'll be like the best person. Well, I guess
the bargaining is kind of like what you do when you get real drunk and you think you're gonna die. I swear to God, like, God, let me get through this. I swear I'll never get drunk again.
Yes.
Like that's the bargaining.
That's the bargaining. And you swear, like, I'll never do this again.
Right, just give it back.
And then you get drunk one more time. You're like, no, for real this time. I promise, right?
Yeah.
So with the guilt, with the grief part of it, it really is that I could have done more. I should have been there more. And as time goes on, I think you kind of grapple with it and you're like, well, I was the best I could be for that person. You can kind of remedy that within yourself.
Yeah.
With depression, guilt, it feels so more internal. It's like self.
Right.
I'm not worthy enough. I'm not good.
Yeah.
I should be better.
Almost shame as well.
It is. So there's a different, I would say like a different cloud that's attached to that kind of guilt associated with depression.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And my understanding of depression is really guilt, self-hatred, unforgiveness turned against yourself.
Yes.
It's negative emotions that you have not expressed or worked through.
Yes.
And so now you're just mad at you.
Yes.
Now, I do have a question about like the difference between the event-based grief, depression, and just being depressed. I've known so many people to always have a reason to be depressed. And so I don't want them, bitches, I don't want them to be able to find an excuse, right? Like they'll be like, oh, well, I'm depressed because I'm grieving that I don't like my body. Right. Or, like, and every time it's time for them to come out of that, there's another reason why. Right. Or I just feel like sometimes people hide behind events. You see people, be really upset about folks who be upset about jobs that they didn't even love. Right. Like, I'm so upset that they fired me and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, sorry, bruh, you was upset long before that. And so how do we help people I was like, how do I say it politely? Bitch, I ain't gotta say it politely.
Mhm.
How do you help people see past their own bullshit?
Yeah.
And excuses and
Yeah.
realize, no, there's nothing going on.
Right.
You're just fucking depressed and
Yes.
you need help.
Yes. So I actually did this exercise with a client. So she would come in all the time and say, I mean, a list. I should be doing more in my hobbies. I should be a better daughter. I should be, and it was all these shoulds. And should, if y'all don't remember nothing else from me out there, should is the most shaming word that we own. I almost wish we can take that word out the dictionary and just
You could pop it out of a bitch's mouth.
Yeah,
every time
like,
you walk past somebody, they say shit, you be like, don't say that.
Just no, it is like the worst word that we have. And so the exercise that I do with people is I let them go through all the shoulds, right? So tell me everything you think you should be doing. One, I would also say, question, why do you think that? Who taught you that? Where did that come from? Who told you you should be doing it? So that's a whole other topic, but that's one piece. Like,
she's like, that's the whole month right there.
Like, but where did that come from?
Yeah. Who said you were a bad daughter? Who said you were a bad worker?
Who said that?
Who said that you were fat? Who said that you were, too skinny? Who said that you were not flexible enough to do yoga? That is a whole nother topic. That might be a whole nother Okay, got it. But yeah.
So where does that come from? So I had her do all the shoulds. And I asked, how do you feel? And she was like, I feel bad. I feel bad about myself. And I said, all right, now let's do another list of what can you do? What can you do? She was like, well, I can call my mom once a week. All right, what else can you do? I can, make sure I spend a few hours on my hobbies or whatever it is. And then after we did this I can piece of it, I asked her how she felt. She's like, I actually do feel better. I actually do feel more optimistic. And so if someone is at home,
more productive language.
It is more productive language. And that language is real. So if you're saying a bad statement about yourself, the question is, what makes this true? What makes this not true? And just reality check any message that you are telling yourself.
Yeah.
And so that's one piece. And then if I have to do like another piece of this, so with depression, we own that. So a lot of times we'll say like, I'm depressed, I'm lazy, I'm shitty, I'm not nothing, I'm this, I'm not good enough. And I don't know about you, but that don't make me want to do anything.
Right. You're like, well, fuck it. I'm a failure. I'm going to sit my failure ass on
I'm going to sit here and
be not shit.
And not shit, right? And so that don't do nothing good for nobody. And so what actually helps is it's interesting to think about it, but if you take yourself out of depression, like you're not the problem.
Okay.
Like you're not the problem. The problem is the problem. Depression is the problem. So I almost envision like a depression monster almost. Like, okay, so what does the depression monster like? The depression monster really likes when you are isolated, when you're sitting in dark rooms, when you're not engaging in hobbies, when you're not
when you're trying to sleep.
When you're trying to sleep all day, right? Like depression loves that. Depression's like, ooh.
Sounds like mold.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And so you have to actively be like, how do I fight depression? So it's no longer like I'm the problem, it's depression is the problem, and how do I fight depression? And that really helps people. So if depression likes me to be in dark rooms, I need to like go outside and let that sun hit me. If depression likes isolation, you know what? I need to like reach out to my friends and like
somebody I trust.
Make sure that somebody come and get me, right? If depression is like, do not get out of bed, you have to think about how do I get out of bed? Maybe you are maybe you got an alarm clock that turn on with some good music that you like or whatever it is, but trying to do the opposite of whatever depression likes. And so then if you try all of that and you're still struggling, then I would say like you can, consider going to like a therapist about this. Yeah. Potentially medications if that's what you need. But there are things to do before that.
Yeah. I mean, I remember from my time in my master's program, it was like, if you have not been able to get through your ADLs, right, your activities of daily living for, 5 weeks, then it's time for some help. Do you, right? Because I know who textbooks are written by, who they're written for. So for us, do you feel like that still stands true? How much time do we have to sit in this shit and let the depression monster have a pity party before you really need to get something?
Yes. So by the book, So we are, like you said, we know what's written for who and why. If we go by the book, they say 2 weeks. Now, I don't know if you've ever been through something hard. I be going through more than 2 weeks, right? So
I'm like, give me 6.
It is
5, 4.
I will keep me like a couple months. Like it depends, right? But I would say a problem is not a problem until it is interfering with big domains in your life, right? So let's say I'm feeling blah, I'm going through it, but I know that rent need to be turned in, and I'm still gonna pay that rent on time, right? All right, I'm going through it. I haven't eaten today. Let me force myself to like eat a meal today.
Yeah.
Like if you're kind of consciously thinking about that,
if you have the cognizance to prepare for tomorrow,
yes,
and for consequences,
absolutely, and then go through the wave because you are at least taking care of these things. So a problem is not a problem to you are not doing this domain. So now you're not paying your rent. Bills are piling up. Maybe you got some chronic thing where you need to take medications every day, and now you're not taking them because you just not functioning like that. Maybe you can't go into work as you said, but you can't even call in to be like, hey, John.
So now you're getting these no call, no shows.
Yeah. So that's kind of when you know that this is getting to be in I call like a red zone of, okay, I need to like get help. I need to like call on somebody.
This isn't, I feel like this is so important because there's so much pressure to perform and to be happy and to do what you're supposed to do. And and I feel like a lot of times they're just like, get better, get over it. Right. And so as a self-care professional, I'm saying it doesn't happen just like that. Right. You need to take some time, but everything in balance. Right. And so jumping out of your emotions too fast, that's a fucking problem. But sitting in that shit for too long, that's a fucking problem. So I'm really trying to help my tribe here understand that safe middle ground, which is not running from the problems, but also not letting them overtake your life.
Right.
So I'm like, this is good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm so, but no, I really want to like for us to hold on to that.
Yeah. And again, just remember
when you're not paying your bills and shit. When you just like cannot.
You have kids. Let's say you're in a room, trapped in your room, and your kid's been outside for too long, and you haven't been like, where my kids at, right? Like that's again sort of when you know some bigger going on, and again, which is different between loss and when we're talking about how to keep going back. And so depression with loss, you may be out the count for a while. Like you may need some isolation time and some issues, but it's not interfering with these domains.
You can still be present.
You can be present. And again, it'll be more in waves. Like you'll have like a pain. And then if you're having now kind of just a general sort of depression, it's this really pervasive, you just feel bad.
Nothing.
It's just,
nothing's good.
It's just, that's just what it is for you. So again, there is a big difference.
I think I can imagine some of the difference between like loss depression or event-based depression, loss depression, grief, and just a regular one. I find that when you lose something, you might go out and have a good time, and then you get triggered and you're like, fuck, like I'm actually sad. Right. Versus when you're depressed, you're not even going out. No. Like sometimes you will, have other things that feel good, and you might catch yourself and then kind of fall back down. Right. But you were able to feel those emotions rise. Is that true?
Yes. Well, depression is things you used to be interested in. You're not even interested in.
You're not even going out to dance.
If that's something you used to like.
Right.
So that's important because how like people try to bring you out to do something. Yeah. Let's say you would never went to the club. Then no, that's probably not the thing you need to make you feel it. But let's say that's something you used to enjoy doing. You like to go out and dance and have a good time, and now you just do not want to do that anymore. Yeah. Then that's a sign. Again, maybe not immediately after an event, because it's to be expected. You don't want to do these things. But again, for depression
as
in general,
time goes on,
you just do not want to do those things that you used to get pleasure out of doing.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a very
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I want to switch into it. Yes. We talked about this before. We jumped on the camera, but you called me out. You said I said some shit that like ain't all the way true. And I was like, I love you and I thank you so much for thinking me precious.
Yeah.
But people getting proper information
Yes.
is more important to me than me looking good and being a fucking know-it-all.
Yeah.
So I encourage you to be like, bitch, this one thing, yeah, clearly you ain't finished your degree. But you said, as you watch the workshops, that I talked about the acceptance piece.
Yes.
And a lot of times people talk about acceptance and it can be misleading. So at this point, I ain't got nothing to say. I'm about to sit the fuck back and I'm about to learn so I can get my shit together. So, tell them how I fucked up and fix it for me.
Okay.
Fix it, Jesus.
All right, everybody. So as I'm talking, right? But, and it is very typical, but when we talk about acceptance, you often hear, and then you move on. And in my sessions, I always hear, I don't even know what that means. Like, what does move on mean? So you do move on, but I believe that the most important part of that is moving on and being okay with this new that you're going to have. And I think that's the part that we don't actually talk about, because it's like, just move on.
What does that even
mean? I just know that my life looked this way. I wanted to go back to looking that way. So then I don't want to move on, right? That's where I think people get stuck, because they're like, I don't want to. And so that's where that saying goes in. It may not be the okay you want, but you will be okay. So I just at least want to address that piece of it, that I actually did talk about this earlier, but you have been adapting your whole life. And just, and being, you can change your mindset to like, I'm excited for what's to come. I don't know though. That's the scary part, right? Because we don't know what's on the other side.
For sure.
I like certainty and knowing what's going on. Actually, I think that's what Corona did for us. I think it was like, oh, you think you have control? Psych.
Cute. That's real cute. Yeah.
You ain't got no control. Well, yeah, you ain't got no control over this, right?
Yeah.
So it's just being okay with moving on with the new. And it's not bad. It's not a bad thing. It just is. It just is. And being okay with that piece of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think that's
and I feel like we talk about it, and I was very clear that people think that the stages of grief is this like linear process, and then you do this. And I feel like I said, like, you bounce back and forth, you go in and out. But I think it still was not said, and a lot of times it's not said. The acceptance, even though that's the last stage, does not mean you will not revert back to denial. Absolutely. Does not mean that you won't end up angry again.
Yes, yeah.
And when we were talking offline, I was like, in the case of, my divorce, I totally accepted it was over. Like I had to, because I was the one that walked away. But there are still times where I get triggered. We're raising kids together, right? And then I'm reminded of all the time I lost and the self that I lost, and how much I had to rebuild to get to this wonderful place I'm at now. But all of a sudden, I'm mad. Like, honestly, he'll call and ask us to help with something. I'll be like, how dare you ask me for something? I've given you everything.
Nothing, right.
And I'm like, I thought I was, okay, so I'm back at the anger stage.
You're like, I thought I was a little better. I didn't know I was going to be so triggered today.
Right. Yeah. So triggering, like a hairpin, thin like a cat. But yeah, to say that even when you've gone through all of these stages back and forth, and you've it's been so intertwined to get to the point of acceptance, that at some point you can be triggered again.
Absolutely.
And now it may not be as pervasive. Yeah. It may not be as long lasting.
Right.
But that that new will always be new.
Yeah. And
there's always
stages do. And so like denial, all of this stuff is real. So even though you accept it, because again, that might be weird to think about, how do you go from acceptance to now I'm in denial, right? Like that's an interesting shift. But honestly, let's say you're taking on too much information again. Denial actually helps you slow it down. Right. It's almost like it's protecting you from not making you take on
information
too much
as you can handle it.
Right. If you're feeling angry, that's actually a good thing, because if you are feeling depressed, sometimes you feel nothing. Sometimes you're just like, I don't even care anymore. So if you get back to an angry place, that means you back to feeling.
I got feelings.
Right? You know what I mean? That means like I'm alive.
I got feelings, y'all. I got lots of
feelings. Feelings are good. Feelings are good. Feelings mean that you're alive.
Yeah.
That you're here. That is a beautiful thing. So when you going through acceptance and you go back to anger, You're like, I'm alive here.
Yeah.
I'm alive here. So all of these stages actually serve a purpose. And that last stage, well, the fourth and fifth, depression, going into the acceptance. Again, it's the hard piece, because depression is you're letting go of what was, and then to get to that fifth stage of acceptance,
peel that off.
you gotta let that go, so then you can accept the new. So I think that's actually a very hard stage between depression and getting into.
Well, that feels like A
acceptance.
to Z,
Yeah.
literally, like in those last two stages. And I like what you were saying about anger, because as you were talking, like, girl, my brain started processing. It was like, that anger also serves as, hey, bitch, remember, you don't like that.
Right.
And you don't want to get to that place again, because there was, in a lot of relationships, you settle for fuck shit.
Right.
And it goes all the way to the point when you snap. But the truth is, if you would have snapped just a little bit way, way earlier, it would have trained them not to fucking treat you that way.
Yes.
And it would have trained you to uphold your boundaries. Because when someone asks you, right, now I ain't talk about loss, now I'm just talking about fuck shit, which is my specialty.
Absolutely.
Avoiding it, not doing it.
Yeah.
But when someone asks me for something and I get angry, that's telling me that, hey, someone's trying to cross a boundary. Someone's trying to cross a barrier. Someone's trying to do something that makes me fearful of losing myself, losing my money, losing my time, whatever it is.
Right.
Now, anger is not really an emotion, right? It's a mask for other things that are going on underneath. And so when you get angry, just like the depression, I'm thinking it's your body's way or your mind's way of saying, hey, pay attention.
Absolutely.
Pay attention.
Absolutely. Anger
what are we feeling?
Absolutely. Anger is the best protector we have. It is like,
because it makes you big and your nostrils flare out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a big thing though, just remember. So again, now if we're talking about fuck shit, so we ain't just talking about we didn't transition into fuck shit. Right.
Always lead there.
Right. But and again, if it is about a loss of relationship or whatever it is, but anger, most of the time, before someone is angry, their feelings were hurt first. And that's like a big thing to remember. So when I'm talking about, like, think about anger and what is it telling you, underneath that, your feelings are hurt, whatever it is. Whatever it is. So like you said, when you got asked for something, that probably just that could have came from I remember when you did that all the time.
All day.
And protecting yourself, right? But before anger, your feelings were hurt. And it's good to ask yourself, what about this is hurting you? What is that? Right. And then again, when you're with somebody, we will rationalize and justify all kinds of, well, I get it, cause he didn't really mean it like that. I guess
he did.
Yes, he said it. He meant it, right? But we will justify all the time, and then we don't pay attention, right? And my slogan is that you already have it, right? But it's really about, like, every skill that you need, you already have it. So we all have these internal mechanisms that help us cope, that are telling us something. We are born with that for a reason, whether it's the universe, God, whatever it is, we are born with that thing that protects us, and we need to listen to it and pay attention. And so again, anger.
And stop trying to be pleasant and cover that for sure.
Yeah.
No, I love it. Okay. So I'm like, I think we covered our topic, because now I'm starting to ask other questions and shit. And we're doing amazing. 3 minutes over. Oh shit! Look at my internal time clock. So where are how do we? If our tribe is here, and this is my first time unable to connect to chat. It's not letting me chat. Oh no! If someone, I want to be able to bring y'all in for questions. How can I pull folks on for questions? Look, we're gonna have some technical, like, fucking life is fucking life. Babe, can you fix it? You cute today. You can let them see.
Okay, I don't want to be bending all of this.
Fix it, Lord. Look, I told you, like, when shit don't go right, be like, you know what?
You need somebody.
Here, I'm about to pretend like everything okay.
No,
like, I can't
you
see
need somebody who know how to figure this out. I can't.
It's not me.
No, it ain't. No, I'll tell you, it's not. It ain't in me.
I know they've been in there chatting away, and I can't see them.
can't even volunteer to help. Oh no, I can't.
Don't even worry about it.
Let me look on my computer.
Okay. So we're trying to see. My computer's right
But
there.
we're stopping these, right?
No.
Oh.
Sorry, guys. I don't know why the live chat's not working. Because I know this is some dope ass fucking conversation and y'all got questions. Y'all want to know. Look at y'all getting behind the scenes. Nosy as shit. That hair color looks so good.
Thank
I mean, in
you.
person and on camera. Like, it
Thank
just,
you.
it's so vibrant.
No, this is some quarantine hair. My hair ain't been this long in
Really?
a minute.
Are you considering cutting it yourself?
I'm getting, I don't know, I'm scared.
But you got it like laid though.
Yeah,
like
I'm
you got
trying.
natural finger waves in the back. I don't know if you've seen them. They like
every
they look
blue
good.
moon. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I see it. Okay,
Yeah, no, it's there. The
Thank
vision
you.
is there.
Thank you.
But no, I get it.
Yeah,
like,
the nails.
look, this is how far my nails. I was like, I cannot. I have to pick these bitches off.
Yeah, nah, I got quarantined.
Everything.
Eyebrows, hair, nails, grieving.
I'm telling you, everywhere you go, there you are. It is time to show up in the world as yourself. Holy shit!
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
What'd you see, Kay? You can see comments?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So I got hella devices. So we are able to read some of the questions and comments. If you have something, go ahead and drop it. Will you be my moderator?
We'll just read the question.
If it's good and worth reading. And that's why everybody say I'm an asshole. I didn't say it like that. I did. I meant to say it like that.
No, like I said, you need somebody who knows.
In my defense, people say stupid shit all the time. They'll see me dressed like this, talk about, so at what point do we do yoga? Bitch, at what point did you pay for yoga? You know motherfucking yoga happened today. I got thoughts. And I want to talk about thoughts.
You said I got thoughts.
I got thoughts.
We can't do yoga.
Oh,
You said I got
yoga.
thoughts. That is
Oh
funny.
my gosh.
That is funny.
Nobody has a question yet.
What did they say?
Commented.
Let me read
Somebody
it.
said, "I'm feeling the shit." I have to find the everybody just saying, "Wow, yes." And then
Is there an emoji
I
for
can't say
impatient?
I can't say read emojis. I'm feeling the should thing. Every time I get into the self-induced guilt, all I do is play over all the things I should have done different.
Oh, go ahead.
It's a problem when it interferes with ... living.
I got a saying for everything. And I think this came from my mama too.
I like your
you know what?
mama,
You know what?
man.
I didn't even have to go to
Go
school.
for her.
I could have just I could have just talked
Set
to
up
my
under your
mama
mama.
and just she need to get a licensing board or something. But as far as like when you think about the should and how you could have done something different, what happened was supposed to happen because that is what happened. But that is what happened.
I love it. Where's the fucking mic? She needs to just drop mic. Like, drop it, and then I'll pick it back up for you. You can do it like the Tyler drop.
That's what happened.
And I love that. And I think that that's the same mindset that I have about mistakes.
Yeah,
they're like our L's, right?
Yeah.
Like now there is the loss of job, loss of loved one.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of when you lose a job, you lost that job, but you didn't lose your ability to earn, right? You didn't lose your ability to get a job,
right?
And the same way you got that one, you can get another one, and now you have more skills.
Yeah. Whenever you like go on, you can always look back and be like, you know what, that was supposed to happen because if that thing didn't happen, I wouldn't have done that, and then that was supposed to happen, and then so just remember. No matter what, when it all settles, because it always does, you can look back and connect all the dots for why it happened exactly the way it was supposed to. Yeah, because that is what happened. Yeah,
so stop that shoulda, coulda, woulda shit. Stop it.
Just say it happened and own it. It happened because that's what happened.
That makes a lot of sense, and I really have to, for me personally, I have to believe that. And, I talk a lot about my story. I'm a super open book. Mm-hmm. And I went through so much shit as a kid and in my early 20s. Wow, I'm old enough to say in my early 20s, bitch, on the other side of it. But now that I have this brand and this company, and now that I am in a place where I can speak from personal experience in personal transformation, it made it make sense. Because when I was
Absolutely.
young, I used to be like, why?
Right.
Why did I have to go to foster care?
Right.
Why did I have to have a marriage that failed? Why did I have to have one kid and then have two kids? Why?
Mm-hmm.
But now that I've gotten to this place where I can stop asking those luxury ass questions of why and just show up in the world as I am, the why answered itself. For me, my why is I am called to help millions, right? Like I really believe that, specifically women of color. And if I did not know what almost every department of hell looked like, how could I look them in their eyes and guide them through it?
Right.
And so when I stopped being so concerned about the why, which caused me to live in the past or the I should have, right? Because it was like, I should have went to a different school. I should have not married that person. I should have not said something to the teacher. I should have.
Mm-hmm.
But if I didn't, then I wouldn't get to the point to be the person that I love. Right. But if we don't work hard to forgive ourselves, which is our next month's topic, if we don't work hard to forgive ourselves and to do the work, then it feels like it's a waste. Right. And so then that comes into that saying, like, you didn't come this far just to go this far. Right. So if some shit didn't work out, if you lost some shit, if you failed, if you're feeling all of these shouldas, then that's where the but I can comes in.
Right.
I should be a better daughter is what your client said. So instead of worrying about what I should have done differently in the past, realize that I am still granted the gift of the future. And I can, tell me if I interpret this wrong.
Absolutely, you can.
And I can be a better daughter by doing what I believe, right? Because you didn't make that connection, but I heard the two things you said. Because who told you the shouldas?
Right.
So now I get to define what being a good daughter is
Absolutely.
to me.
Yes.
And to me, that means calling my mother twice a week.
Yes.
And I always want to like draw my own personal experiences, which sometimes makes me feel a little narcissistic. I'm like, it's all about me, but fuck it, bitch, it's my story. So when we talk about the should've, right? I should have been a lady, right? A lot of times people come for me for my crass, way of speaking. But if I should have been a lady, that's somebody else telling me what being a woman is.
Right.
So maybe instead of accepting these rules, these bullshit rules about who other people are telling me and how other people are defining me, because we're not even talking about loss, we just talk about life now.
Right.
How other people are defining me, I need to put up there, what does that mean?
Yes.
So what does it mean to me?
Absolutely.
To be a woman?
Right.
And for me, I have that ratchet affirmation, fuck being a lady, I want to be a legend.
Absolutely.
Right? So to me, being ladylike means speaking ethically, speaking authentically, speaking honestly. And when I can start saying, when I can set the bar, right? When I can define who the fuck I am, and I stop letting other people define me, then I know when I'm on my, in yoga, we call it true north, or when I'm being my most authentic self. So again, for the daughter, what is a good daughter?
Yes.
Right? Like, how do you pick that apart?
Right.
Of all the daughters you've seen, what qualities and characteristics of the ones that you said are good daughters, which ones do they have in common?
Right.
Because a lot of times other people who are not good to themselves have expectations of you to be somebody that they can't even be. Right? You expect me, you tell me, some parents might tell you, or spouses might tell you, you're not a good spouse, you're not a good daughter, you're not a good worker because you don't do XYZ. And a lot of times that XYZ is you don't let me fuck you over.
Yes.
Right? I've been told that I wasn't a good friend because I didn't let somebody live in their bullshit. Or I said, hey, if this is how you want to live your life, I can't participate in that because it's a vibration that I can't fuck with.
Right.
And then if I didn't have my own definition of what a good friend was, then I could let them project their bullshit on me.
Yes.
And now I'm sad because I lost my friend.
Yes.
And I should have been a better friend.
Yeah.
And I should have kept that shit to myself.
Absolutely. And just thinking about what you can do, and especially during this time, it's super hard. But like, I have been journaling in a way I have never done before because I have been.
So you wrote that book. So We were talking about her writing a book. So that's what you just told me?
I am working on my book.
You wrote that book. Beautiful. Okay, continue your story. I didn't know if you had already knew that you wrote the book. But did you know? Or did I just tell you?
You just told me. I like that. My book, I wrote it.
So you wrote your book? Okay.
So I've been journaling, and because when we start getting back in the hustle and bustle again, it's really easy to forget some of these lessons. And to your point, like defining everything for yourself, like who do I want to be? What does that look like? Having that vision for yourself, and then what can you do to make it happen? Because the should is it's anchoring you into that past.
Sure.
It's really hard to like get out of that past when it's I should have. I can. It gets you propelling into the future. And it makes you start thinking about those steps. And that's for me where healing begins, when I am actively making the steps for my vision, for whatever that is for myself. Yeah. So now
I love that. Yeah. In positive psychology, we call it like it's a map, and we talk about like in the shirt I'm wearing change. When I want to make a change in my life, I need to have a map, and map actually means motivation. I need to be motivated to make this change. I'm able, right? I need to feel that I am able to do it, right? And then I need to be prompted. Something needs to happen. And sometimes that prompt is lost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
And actually, and depression, especially, a lot of times, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but when you're about to change, like when you're about to have like a real growth period, I've been tired because it is about to require me to do some real different.
Fuck it, you go into a cocoon because you're about to be a butterfly.
You about to really do this. Or like, if you ever gone through it, I don't know if you've done this, but like I've done this for sure. Have a big cry and then you just fall asleep. That like you just knocked out.
I think I cry. I don't know. I think I cry. First of all, I fall asleep very easy, and I'm a crier.
Okay, gotcha.
Like I can fall asleep mid sentence.
Gotcha.
But yes,
So when you have,
I'm always changing. That's why. That's why I'm always crying. I'm always
telling you, if you tired, that means you doing something, right?
Yeah. Even the mental work.
Absolutely. And so if you have that cry and you fall asleep, that is your body resetting itself. Like all of this stuff has
like literally
reason. Like literally your body's like, and shut down.
Done. You're done, son.
You're done. Like it's time to rest. And you start tomorrow, right? Yeah. So all of this stuff serves a purpose and there is a reason for it. And don't feel bad about these processes that a lot of us go through, because that is, it is all for a purpose, all of it. And I am a firm believer in that. So if you cry and you go to sleep, don't feel bad about it. You wake up and you reset. And that's it.
What I really hear, like, because my brain is always like trying to process things. Out of everything that we talked about, the thing that was interwoven and not yet said is listen to your fucking body. Listen to your body, go through your emotions and define shit for yourself. And that's for loss, that's for growth, that's for transformation, that's for everything.
Yes, because you're lost, define that and define what this new looks like for you. Yeah,
take charge. Take charge. So we said, like, if when we're talking about the stages of, grief, if you are, in denial about something, respect that. Do not try to overload yourself randomly. I don't know, like if so does that mean super random? Tell me if I'm like off track here. When someone gets cheated on, right? They want to know everything. Is the brain really ready to know everything? Like, should we tell them super random? I don't know. There's an energy in the world, not in this room. Not in this room. At least on this side, I don't know what you be doing, it's quarantine time. But that wave of wanting to overload yourself, is that good? Or do you let some of that denial happen and just like find shit out when you find shit out, because that's when it's time to find shit out?
That is a good question.
Super random, but it makes sense to me in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, I think people want to know stuff because we have this false sense. We talk about like control and understanding everything. So when you're talking about cheating, I believe it's denial and acceptance. It is acceptance that we may never know why that person made that decision to do that thing, because it actually has nothing to do with you. It's really weird because it feels personal, but like It ain't have nothing to do with you. It's that person made that decision because that's what they wanted to know. So, do you know? I guess, is that going to change the end result? Is that going to make
But
you?
why? That's the question.
Like, is that going to make you less paranoid? Is that going to make you feel more comfortable in this? Is this going to change the end result? You sort of understanding why. So
think big picture. Like, what is this going to get me?
I would. Maybe you don't need to know all the details about the cheating and why it happened, but I would say, if you think this can be a resolved situation, why did it happen, and can we work through whatever that was? And granted, that makes me scared to say, because I don't want to do that, to say blaming like something was wrong with me, but just throwing it out there for people who do move on past through stuff like that. It really is. I'm not the problem. The problem is the problem. The cheating is the problem. So us together, how do we sort of make this a healthier relationship, a better relationship that has better communication, an honest relationship? Like, how do we do those?
If the desire is to continue,
yes, and it can't be one person. So it can't be like, I need you to be. No, it needs to be we are a joint unit. Yeah. How do we together go forward? And so that's actually how I'd answer that question. Do you need to know all the details? I don't know. I don't know if you need to know that, but it really is what was going on for you. And if that is your partner stuff, what about you made you do that? And how do we together work that on? So I think that's more of my angle.
Yeah, I don't know where it came from, but I was like, I felt, it's phones, but I feel a little something. Oh, we got a question, and this is the last one because we've been kicking it. And she talked about an hour, y'all. So.
All right. Lost twins at 29 weeks back in December.
Yes.
Went back to work in February. Yeah. I'm a single mom of one already, so I felt I needed to bounce back. When all is quiet, I feel like I'm breaking. Yeah. Any advice?
Yeah. So one, I really, really, really like this one because and now I don't know if the twins were already here or if she was like
she's like 29 weeks. So
she said 20. Okay, so
29 weeks is like 7 months.
Yeah. And that's real. And I think and I just want to first validate that experience, because a lot of the times if there's a pregnancy that does not come into like full term, then we almost don't even count it. And so I just want to validate that I do count. Like that is valid. That is real.
You had a
loss, and those were your children. Those were her children. So like in my head, those twins are still here. And so the advice that I have is when you're talking about loss, you can still have a relationship with the person. So when we hear like this move on, that's why I think, no, if you're talking about a loss, you can still have that relationship with the person. So my advice is, as time goes on, you can still celebrate those milestones that you're missing, like that first birthday, or you can still think about, when they might have been in kindergarten around this time. Like you could still acknowledge that and still have those experiences with your children, because those are your children, and that love doesn't end because they passed on. And so
sounds like talk about it.
Absolutely.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
Openly. And
yeah, absolutely. And still bring them into the space. And so it sounds like she still has like a living child. And so still talking about it with the living child, and this is the relationship with your brother and sister or whatever it is, and still bring it in. So that is actually my advice, that it is okay to acknowledge that and still have that relationship with those children, because those are your children, and not to feel bad about it, and talk about it and bring it into the space and celebrate those milestones and envision what those children would have been through your love and your guidance, because in my head, they're still in the universe doing those things because you are their parent. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And what about the she said she felt like she needed to get back to work. Mm-hmm. And now whenever she's in that, she said, like when
all is quiet.
When all is quiet. And that's what I was saying before, mm-hmm. The brain is like, when for me, anxiety, when panic attacks mm-hmm. would happen while I'm sitting there watching TV, right. It's like, your brain's like, oh, cool. Everything is chill. You're safe. You're fed. You're laying down. Cool. I got something to tell you. Right. And then and the brain is like, it comes out of that denial mm-hmm. and gives you more information so that you can deal with it.
Yeah.
But what can she do in those moments when all is quiet, but all's not well?
Yeah. Pour into yourself. I mean, that would be like the only answer. You can pour into your the other child, you can pour into yourself, you can pour into the people you care about. And again, and we've been talking about this, but just it is okay.
Mm-hmm.
It is okay to have that loss and don't feel bad about it. But a lot of alone time and not doing anything is hard.
Yeah.
That's a really hard thing. And so,
especially when you were planning a life that is not, you were like, she was planning to have 2 kids, which is overwhelming in and of itself. And now all of that anticipation and it's not, that's not what it is.
But, and when I say the point to yourself part is, so when you're preparing for this, you're probably doing all these things that are good for yourself, but it's because you're preparing for this other thing. And I'm saying you can still do that stuff for yourself, right? So whether it was like, you know what, I got this back room that need to be cleaned up, so I got to make room for this. You can still clean that room up. You can still make space for it.
You can still eat better.
You can still do that stuff. Yeah. So to finally like finish the last piece of advice is to continue taking care of yourself. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, always bring it up, right? But the foundation is eating, sleeping, taking care of yourself. And so when we are hurt, when we are stressed out, that foundation, I feel like we just throw it out the window. We like, you know, I don't need to eat,
physical
I don't
needs,
need to sleep.
all of it. Yeah.
We just get rid of that. And so it's so important in the times that we don't feel like doing it, is actually when we need it the most. Right. So like,
so it's not about going back to the grind. It's about taking baths or showers.
Yes.
It's about making sure that you eat.
Yes.
It's about, you know, making sure that you are physically comfortable.
Yes.
Right. And taking care of your body, because even though you didn't have children who you were taking care of, you're still postpartum.
Yeah.
And so whatever your bounce back plan was, not just the financial bounce back, but whatever your physical bounce back plan was, you still deserve,
you still do
right?
it.
Like, let me say that you still deserve all of that treatment. You still deserve, you know, whatever new clothes you were going to buy, or the Spanx. You still deserve the nicer bras. You still deserve to celebrate your body for the miraculous.
Absolutely.
Because the conception was the miraculous.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I love that.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself.
Yeah. And whoever that is, I my thoughts to you. Yeah, that's hard.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's always so hard to like get off this thing, because it's just like we're pouring out and pouring into each other. And this was actually the first time I called one of our workshops and had someone else. So I'm like, I think I'm addicted to having friends on the couch.
Yeah.
It feels so good.
I had a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think it's really important as people have been engaging. You don't see that, but they've been engaging with you for the last hour. And I am positive that there is somebody who is connected with you and who wants to talk to you. What is the best way for somebody to work with you right now?
Yeah. So a couple of things. So I have my Instagram is Bay Therapist. I have my email
BAY, not BAE. You know, because I'm Bay. You know, Bay.
Somebody put it in there for you already.
Oh
yeah.
Told you they loved you. I told you they loved you.
We went.
Squad up.
Gang.
Jerome Payne.
Well, thanks, Mr. Payne.
Thank you, Payne.
Yes, not wrong. It's French. I don't know him, but nevertheless. So
so no, Bay Therapist, BAY Therapist. That's the best way to do it. And if not, I do have an email. It's long, but Sharon, SHARON. That's my name, Sharon. Frazier, FRASIER. MFT at Gmail.
I was at where?
At Gmail.
Might be old school, might be Hotmail.
Yes.
So at Gmail.
And another resource that's super good is it's called, first of all, number one is anything Trav Yoga Bay got all her affirmations on here. So that's, I'm telling everybody, that's the number one spot to go to.
And you're in the Trap Tribe, so you know.
Yes. So
meditate with a bitch.
That's number one. And then number two is there is this site called whatsyourgrief.com. And they're everything from secondary trauma grief, where if there's grief of celebrities and we grieve people we don't even know why we're grieving. If it's, they talk about grieving through photography, grieving through, I mean, it's a whole,
they're a robust resource.
They are everything grief. So it's called whatsyourgrief.com. That's a perfect resource.
Amazing. Well, thank you again. So as I end these calls, I always just do a quick breathing exercise.
Yeah.
If it's weird for you to like meditate on camera, you can like step
I'm
off.
with you.
But I'm about to grab my little. You know what I'm saying? Oh, got this. Give me that. hold on. Did we see? Oh, we got ass today. You know what I'm saying? Like, I look for opportunity to show my ass because, I like to do that. But okay.
When you go in white, you winning.
Every time I wear all white, winning. 5 times a day, I hear the ludicrous line, all white on body looking like milk. Okay, so the way that the breathing exercise works is I'm going to ding this 3 times. And then it's a singing bowl, so it'll make a little sound. And then it's a super simple breathing exercise. I do the same one each time because I think it's very important for us. I think it's very important for us to get some things in second nature. So I will count up and down. Whatever I count up, a number between 2 and 5 will double it. So if I say we're going to breathe up for 5, you'll hold at the top. And then when we exhale, you'll exhale very slowly for 10.
Gotcha.
The inhales are really big through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. All right.
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. Y'all ready? All right. Wherever you are, just begin to exhale, letting out anything that you're holding back. And at the bottom of that exhale, there's a little bit more, so let that shit go. And on the inhale, we'll go up for 4, 3, 2, 1 at the top. Take another sip and hold. Exhale for 8, 7, 6, you got it. 5, 4, there's more in you than you think. 3, 2, 1, hold. Inhale. 3, 1, 2, take in life. 1, hold. Exhale slowly for 6, 5, 4, there's more. 2, 1, hold. Last time. Inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Take another sip of life in. And exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Take your time. 1. I want to seal this conversation with gratitude and with compassion, and realizing that even though we were able to talk about loss and grief in a way that felt very communal and therapeutic, that there may be people who don't feel like they have community or don't feel like this conversation comes as easy. And I want to have a safe space for that. So thank you for sitting through what could have been a triggering conversation. Thank you for hearing us out. And I believe in divine appointments. So thank you for existing and for being here. I hope that this message permeates your life and gives you all hope. All right, enough of that yoga shit. I'm back ratchet. Y'all have a great night. I fucking love you. If you need me, you know where to find me. If you're in here and you are not in the Trap Tribe, you need to fucking get in the Trap Tribe because these calls will not always be free, baby. Trapitout.trapyogabay.com. Yes. Hariom and namaste.